It's surprising how much I love, absolutely love, the cinema of Brian De Palma. About a dozen years ago, when I first started to become a cinephile, when that transformation was taking place, I was positively obsessed with his films. I studied every single one with complete fascination and devotion. I had most of them memorized, even. I bought every book about him that I could get my hands on, and if you're interested, the best book is just called Brian De Palma Interviews, just a collection of him in his own words describing his film, his life, and what's going on. It's better than a biography. It's better than some sort of academic analysis of his films, because it's almost like an oral biography of the man, straight from the horse's mouth, so to speak. And I even took extensive notes from these books and from his films, as if I were some sort of biographer, some sort of historian of De Palma's works. And it's really fascinating how much I was obsessed with his films. Something completely captivated me about them. They're just so vivid and perfectly composed. I would like to think that everything I learned about filmic grammar, about how to analyze films, everything I learned about composition, I learned from Brian De Palma. This channel would not exist without Brian De Palma. He taught me artistry. I compiled my own De Palma scrapbook with cutouts of interviews and film reviews, concept art, and storyboards. De Palma is the reason I'm not just a fan of film, he's the reason I'm consumed by them. He's simply, when I think of art, when I think of cinematic art, I fully think of Brian De Palma. He immediately comes to mind. The man's a behemoth of style, and this film right here, Body Double, 1984, incredibly underrated, underappreciated, and misunderstood. Body Double is the master at his most flamboyant. It's De Palma at his most splashy. It's a film based on a false reality, over a false reality, on top of other false realities. It's thematically and tonally uneven, stylistically ostentatious, and psychosexually excessive, but nothing about Body Double is imprecise. Every bit of distortion was planned, strategized, and choreographed by De Palma perfectly. It is uneven because it was built to the specifics of style, not of content. It is ostentatious because it was consciously conceived to be, and it is sexually excessive because the film itself is erotically charged. This should mean that Body Double is some sort of failure, but magnificently. It's a massive artistic success. Body Double is a blatant masterpiece. Its immaculate style is undisguised, even brazenly complex, as De Palma weaves an intricate visual web of coordinated content. With Body Double, De Palma is rubbing the world's nose in his genius. He proved that he could make a masterwork that flagrantly marginalized its own content. He draped Body Double in a complicated visual style that should be studied for its opulent symmetry. Body Double is a kinetic art. You're dealing with motion. De Palma's camera is always on the move, constantly making its presence known on account of its strong uniqueness and organized mobility. The way De Palma dispenses visual information in Body Double is based on the stylized wonder of his own genius. It's a remarkably self-absorbed masterwork. We are at the mercy of the maestro's whims. Whatever he feels like doing, he does it. He sabotages the fourth wall, he commits self-mockery, and he casually weakens narrative suspense. He's laughing to himself, giggling, because he commits all of these cinematic sins with the most impeccable camera work in the world. De Palma is telling the story of actualized style, of the ultimate idealized form, as a genre. It is a film that is blisteringly precise in its motions and deliberately serene in its execution of every scene and sequence. The literal content of his images are brilliant. This film is a sequence of one genius stroke after another one. Its camera accomplishes impossible artistic feats. It's contradictory and it's brilliant, and it should not work, but it does because De Palma is just unrivaled in his genius, in his self-absorbed genius. De Palma's vision is perfection. His language thrives in the anything-goes world of Body Double. This is De Palma's style when it's given free terrain, uncompromised. This is De Palma taking the leash off of his imagination. This is De Palma making a visual masterpiece for the love of imagery, for the love of sequential madness. This is De Palma unfiltered and wild. His cynical humor runs a mean streak through Body Double. In his entire catalog, only Raising Cain can be seen as being this sardonic. There's a sequence in the film that De Palma has timed to a pornographic lip-syncing of Relax, Don't Do It. That sounds pretty absurd, right? Well, I'd agree with you if it weren't for the fact that it exudes more energy and communicates a greater artistic depth than the Odessa staircase sequence from Battleship Potemkin. Trust me, this is not hyperbole, and I feel insane saying these words too, but it's absolutely true. De Palma took trash and he made opulent art out of it. Body Double is a film about style and visual complexities. It's not about anything else. It's just about the greatest film language ever spoken by the world's greatest filmmaker. This is where he completely deconstructs Hitchcock, completely abandons him, and really transcends every motif, every part of the language that he ever learned from Hitchcock. This is where the pupil turns on the master and giggles in his face. It's a tour de force of images and camera work. It's a brilliant piece of pure cinema. Body Double leaves nothing to the imagination apart from technical wonder. His film operates like an opulent drama of kinetic energy that gallantly soars to the highest of artistic highs. A self-proclaimed visual stylist, De Palma executes his film with a master's touch and a deviant pride. When he isn't busy obstructing our perception or inversing and circumventing our subjectivity, he's making voyeurs out of us. De Palma's world isn't just heightened, it's systematically insincere. It's glorious. It operates under style, and De Palma's style isn't just genius, it's beyond words. The narrative primarily serves as a pervert's guide to Hitchcock. It stars the hapless Craig Wasson as the voyeur with a tortured libido. Greg Henry, a Brian De Palma regular, shakes things up as Sam Bouchard. Henry appeared many times in De Palma's filmography, but I think Body Double was easily his best outing with the director. Henry played up his role excellently. He was in tune with De Palma's unusual vision. Melanie Griffith and Deborah Shelton co-starred as the objects of sexual obsession. Both women were solid in their roles, allowing the film style to just flow over them, to just ooze all over their bodies. The actors were mostly ornamental. They simply decorated De Palma's vast visual web. The real star of Body Double is its style. It's a feast for the eyeballs. I love the films of Brian De Palma because the films of Brian De Palma are pure. They are made of the purest of filmmaking techniques, through the purest of cinematic frameworks possible. Body Double is De Palma's genius at its most elaborately ornate. It's high art masquerading as low pulp. At no point in Body Double was I not completely bedazzled by De Palma's visuals. There wasn't a single scene that didn't capture me, that didn't excite me, that didn't thrill me and tantalize me and stimulate me, charge me, attract me. Sometimes these were subtle choices, occasionally inconspicuous or partly innocuous, but most of the time the camera work was the most brazen of splash art. Most of the time, Body Double was literally full of itself, The camera is incredibly responsive, hypersensitive, hyper-emotive, and constantly present, always there, always self-aware. De Palma's style can back up its ostentation with a supreme skill and mastery. De Palma's style generates kinetic energy and crafts a masterwork out of thin air and empty tropes. I have no problem with this kind of masterpiece. A part of me lives for films like Body Double. A part of me absolutely lives for them. Because they're so misunderstood. Because they can be so easily misidentified as garbage. Body Double is a masterwork. And you know what? I love that so many people can't recognize that fact. Because like De Palma, I just giggle in their faces. God, Body Double rules. Fantastic film. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening to my love letter. And hopefully you can smash that like button and hit subscribe. Share this video too, if you know any Body Double fans. Not a whole lot of us, but it's nice to find true believers out there. Thank you for watching. My name's Zachary. And, holy fuck, this movie, man. I love it. Absolutely, positively am obsessed with De Palma's films, and this is probably the one I go back to the most. In fact, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to watch it. I'm going to go watch it right now. Have a good night.